What if the impact of your principles years from now could be the design of your legacy that you start today? I'd like to welcome Hikara Senju to the Design Your Legacy podcast this lovely Friday. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Angelina.
It is my pleasure to host you on this lovely platform, and I'm excited to dive into the subject of legacy because I believe you're a millennial and you'll have a lot of amazing insights.
Absolutely excited to be here.
Okay, so would you share a little bit in terms of an icebreaker, whether you take us back to your origin story, or where would you like to start this lovely afternoon?
Sure. Well, I grew up in New York, in Westchester. My dad's a painter. My grandfather worked at IBM, and that's why I grew up in Westchester near the IBM headquarters. Um, and yeah, studied computer science at Harvard. Um, and I was actually taking cross-registering for AI courses at MIT when I saw the early generative AI models. And it was really there at actually at MIT taking these AI courses that I got very excited about generative art, um, the idea of an AI being creative. So this was about a decade ago. Um, and separately, I started two venture-backed companies in college, one of which was in education. And this ad tech company was acquired by another education startup in the Bay Area where I became head of marketing. And so it was really there running marketing combined with this passion I had for generative art. I had this idea of starting a generative ads company that helps businesses scale and create more personalized experiences and connect with their customers in a more personalized way through generative AI. And founded the company back in 2018. We were one of the first movers in Gen AI advertising. We were the first company to present at TechCrunch Disrupt as a Gen AI company, and Jensen Huang gave us a shout out at his NVIDIA GTC conference. Gartner has highlighted us as a leading solutions provider for AI creative. Um, and we've raised money from the top VCs in the AI industry, including SoftBank and AIX Ventures. Um, yeah, that's kind of a quick synopsis, origin story.
Oh, I think it's amazing. And I think your grandfather as well as your father were painters.
So my grandfather was an executive at IBM, so he was a
Okay,
business,
okay.
and so that was how I got very early into technology,
Okay,
and got
his influence.
yeah, like
Okay.
very about the possibility of technology through my grandfather. Um, he's the one that pushed me, if anything, towards technology entrepreneurship, and is like, being an entrepreneur is like one of the most highest leverage things you can do in technology. He really admired Bill Gates and thought that was so cool. The like how he built Microsoft from scratch, and so he was always so he was a very big fan of entrepreneurs and technological entrepreneurship, and so that's how I got early access to computers. I got into programming and technology earlier on in my life. That's how what got me interested in computer science. That's what got me to study computer science when I was a student at Harvard. So yeah, it's definitely a combination of art and technology that it's kind of starting a generative art company in the advertising space.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the backstory and the context. It's interesting how much those early influences uh, inspire our passions and kind of the trajectory of our lives. So, what is the name of your company today? And then would you walk the listeners through? Because I think your website is amazing, but walk us through how it can help the typical entrepreneur.
Sure. So the company is called OmniKey, and we are a company that helps businesses optimize their ad creatives and their ad campaigns autonomously with AI. So our AI generates ad creatives and advertising campaigns, omni-channel advertising campaigns on Meta, Google, Reddit, TikTok, Snapchat, etc. And then launches those campaigns and optimizes the creative and and just generally the media buying and kind of the strategy of the advertising, the delivery of that creative, if you will, um, for businesses. And what we're doing fundamentally is we're democratizing growth. We're making growth more accessible to more entrepreneurs. Historically, advertising has been really expensive. You had to have a large budget. You had to pay an expensive agency to manage your campaigns for you. But an AI can generate content, can agentically execute against the goal, and so that's what we've been working on since day one, really. And the technology has evolved quite a way since then, and so therefore our product is also quite significantly improved its capabilities since when we first launched back in 2019.
Yeah. So it's user friendly. Walk me through one case study that's positive regarding like a typical product or service.
Sure. So there's this vegan beauty brand called Omiana, um, and we drove 2x increase in year-over-year sales for them. And yeah, I mean that was just creating content at scale, creating content personalized for different audiences. We use data to understand certain keywords were driving higher conversions. The certain imagery was driving higher conversions, and so we incorporated that into the creative, and then manage those campaigns for them to drive higher sales and return on ad spend. So um, the net sales he saw from each dollar of ad spend increased, I think, also 2x, as well as then his top line increased 2x year over year. So that's one example. I mean, we have a lot of case studies on our website.
Okay.
So if you visit our website, there's a whole section of case studies with the results we've been able to deliver.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the price point is reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we have a self-serve product that has a pretty reasonable entry level price point. I think it should be accessible for most people. And then we have a more kind of a managed service component that's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, because I bring that up because I think seed capital is oftentimes the thing that either allows a business to do well, like when you had spoke about working with VCs, venture capitalists. I think that is when somebody can get the word out about their product or service. And marketing is always the great equalizer. But if somebody doesn't have the ad dollars or the marketing dollars, they can have a great idea and it gets lost, or they just give up.
Well, yes, I mean, what was it? Like, it was like 40% of all venture dollars were being spent on Facebook and Google. Like, it's one of the biggest, um, it's actually probably the biggest source of spend for venture-backed companies is ad dollars. And and so like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's, if we could lower that, if we could,
get smarter about it.
yeah, if you get smart about it, then you can let more businesses grow without potentially needing to raise venture, or people who can't raise venture can also start to grow their businesses in a profitable way. And so, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
a
that,
lot of yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs have no idea how to write a pitch deck or even how to pitch to and sell on the spot verbally. It's like Shark Tank, but less. So artificial intelligence is growing rapidly right now. What do you think entrepreneurs on the sell side, those that are selling products and services, what do you think that they're getting right today if they're losing half their marketing dollars? And then what do you think that they're maybe getting not so right?
yeah. I mean, it's a great question. I mean, this is like code that's almost as old as time, which is I know my advertising budget. I know my advertising budget's working. I just don't know which half. And that generally, like, half your marketing budget is being wasted on ineffective content, for sure. I mean, I think the exact percentage for ineffective content might be, like slightly lower than 55%, but around, in that range. And then, and so why is that? Well, it's because, advertising is a dynamic competitive space in many ways, and there's new platforms and new ways of competing for attention. And in particular, I think the attention span for the average consumer has decreased significantly. So, um, it's becoming more of an acute problem. The average view time for, say, a piece of ad has gone from 2.5 seconds to 1.2 seconds or something. Um,
Mm.
the need for creating content for a marketer has grown 20x, uh, and over the past couple of years because they need to produce more content to keep their consumers engaged. And yet by not producing enough content, you result in ad fatigue. When you show the same ad to the same people over and over again, you lose, you know, brand trust. So I think it was like 44% of consumers lose trust in the brand after they see an ad multiple times. Um, so it's a
Yeah.
really, really big problem where a lot of money, advertising is $1 trillion industry. A lot of money is being spent on very ineffective creative, targeting the wrong audiences, showing the same ad to the wrong people over and over again, destroying brand value. And then if you can use data in a more intelligent system for optimizing that creative and targeting that creative, that drives, that makes advertising more affordable for more businesses, and helps entrepreneurs grow. And so that's really our mission, is to democratize growth, to empower more marketers and business owners to connect with their consumers and potential consumers and customers uh, by lowering barriers to entry for that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I looked at your website and I was like, oh, I got to try this. I wonder how this could fit to my business, even though my business is not necessarily a product. It's a coaching and advisory service. But if I promote a book one day or something along those lines, the wheels are
Well,
already turning.
well, we actually a lot of our customers are not necessarily physical products. I mean, we have a lot
Oh,
that are services that are uh, for example, if you're a B2B SaaS company and you're looking to generate leads, or you're looking to generate leads for your consultancy, that's actually a very good candidate for ads, and you can run ads very effectively that way. We have customers. A lot of our customers are in highly regulated industries like crypto, or like and healthcare related
products.
products.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a whole niche that's coming up right now, that whole wellness. I wanted to bring up a company, and you probably don't know of this company because it's at Sephora. It's a skincare line called Drunk Elephant, but they've got the best marketing. I mean, do you know this company? Probably not.
oh, I haven't. No, I don't know Drunk Elephant. Yeah,
Oh, okay. It's got these videos on TikTok that are like in the millions or billions of views, and a whole global client base of customers who buy their skincare of all ages. I had no idea. And it's premium price skincare. But I went out to TikTok and I thought, wow, what they've done with marketing, it just left me speechless.
yeah. Well, it just goes to show the importance of having really good content in
Yeah.
landscape. Like, um, yeah, like good content can make or break it. I mean, content, the creative is the most important. The creative is, we say this, we say this repeatedly, which is creative is the most important lever for growth. That,
Mm,
like, it's like, I think this has also been shown. It's like the majority of the performance of your advertisements are based on the quality and personalization of your creative, not based on targeting, not based on discounts or anything like this. Like, the most important thing is ultimately, what is the story you're telling to customers that resonates with them, that gets them to, act and buy your product, or try out your product, or sign up, or schedule a demo, or um, download an app. And so that story has to be good, and personalized and effective. And you can do this with automation. You can do this better with automation, and you can do this better with data.
yeah. What do you think, or do you think about the impact your work will have 100 years from now? And if so, what do you think that impact will be? What will endure?
Well, yeah, technology is a fast moving space, with with like it's you have very few long lasting products and companies and technology. I think one legacy is definitely the products that you build, that I build, that we build as a company, that I'm involved in, have some impact long term that's positive for humanity. I mean, that's probably the most important legacy impact, is just creating something that has a positive impact on humanity. Um, uh, and I think of and and and
Well,
and
entrepreneurialism, I don't mean to interrupt you. Entrepreneurialism is like the engine that drives society and the United States in particular. I mean, other countries as well, but a lot of times not enough credit is given to the entrepreneur. And yet, whether it's Silicon Valley, New York City, or any of the other spaces where these ideas are flourishing, if you can get that idea to the marketplace sooner in front of the customers, it creates a capitalism at its ideal finest.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think, what is capitalism, but there are different forms of resource allocation, right? And there's kind of the state approach, the kind of top-down approach that results in a waste, corruption. And then there's kind of the capitalism approach, that not like the corrupt capitalism, or like kind of the broken eras of it, but like truly, like, free competition of ideas and talent and resources. That is the most efficient form of resource allocation to drive talent and capital to the most productive means that move the world forward. And so, yeah, and entrepreneurs are the engines of capitalism. They're the ones that take risks, take a lot of risks. Often, I mean, I can tell, we have, I was just at a venture event with a port, one of my investors was hosting this event, like a retreat of sorts. We have like really successful founders, but he's a single dad. And he's like lots of sacrifice, and he has his third mortgage on his home, but he's doing
Mm.
wants to build. He wants to build a great product, and he's building. He's actually quite successful. But like, and so tremendous cost to not just that entrepreneur, which is makes sense. I mean, that's what they want to do, but also the people around them. And so, yeah, I think the risks and sacrifices that with this kind of for the shot of having a successful company building is definitely, I think, you know
Yeah, there's high risk, but then there's also high reward. So, since let me transition for a moment over to the legacy portion. So, definitely, I think that the work anyone does today has a ripple effect, whether it's 10 years or 100 years from now, because we never know, that chain of events of they get that good break, even though there's like that joke, only it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. So, yeah. But so if I transition over to the legacy portion for a moment, what does this word mean to you?
Well, I think I think one of my favorite quote actually is this. It's from and it's Easter, and so it's definitely a top of mind. I'm Catholic, and it's from 1 Corinthians 13 4 verses 4 through 7. And it goes, "Charity is patient, is kind. Charity does not envy, is not pretentious, is not puffed up, is not ambitious, is not self-seeking, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice over wickedness, but rejoices with the truth, bears with all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." And I think ultimately my legacy of living a life of charity and love is, I think, important, and what I would want to be remembered by. I think of people like Chuck Fenney, who gave away all his money. He's the guy. He's the founder of Duty Free Shopping.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
yeah.
Going through
So
the airports.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And he donated literally. He's like, he made a fortune and he gave it all away to charity in his
Which, you
life.
know, which charities?
Well, yeah. So the charity is called General Atlantic, which is now a massive private equity financial vehicle.
Okay.
But it does have this social mission where it gives out capital to um, needy like causes and worthy causes as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think of, I mean, one, you can't really plan to have, create, you can't necessarily plan to build a thing like a Ford Foundation or a Gates Foundation or General Atlantic or something along these lines. That just kind of, if you're lucky, if you work hard and you're lucky, sometimes that happens to some people. But I do find entrepreneurs like I really do admire those foundations and the legacies and what they've been able to achieve and in the continued positive impact they continue to have in this world. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting. There's something that the government can do, and then there's other times where private individuals step in. And I remember during COVID, there was this like expectation for Howard Schultz of Starbucks to like step in and to do these different things. And I thought, that's so interesting because oftentimes an individual is trained in business, and now they're expected in terms of responsibility, like with great privilege comes great responsibility to then like step up and to do more. And I think it's quite a learning curve. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I do think there was Andrew Carnegie had also famous philanthropist gave away all his wealth uh and he had this really interesting, which is he his and I think because what is ultimately a great entrepreneur at that scale, but like a great resource allocator, right? Somebody who like is very data driven and I think it applies to charity as well.
Yeah, that's great. So, as a millennial, um, were there any moments where you thought about legacy, like whether there was an event or a person that might have catalyzed your thinking, a role model, a moment?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like I'm 32. It's not necessarily always top of mind for me in terms of legacy. I do think that there is this, going back to this quote, it's like I don't want to say, and I don't want to live a life necessarily where I'm optimizing for, fame or anything like this. I mean, there's that classic Ozymandias quote of like, the statue of Ozymandias in the desert, and no one really remembers who this person was, but there's a statue of him in the desert, and it's like I'm sure at some point this person was great. Like everybody forgets everything eventually, but I think there's something to be said of like whether people remember for you for it or not. Like in the Chuck Feeney case, you left a positive impact in the world, and that's I think you know uh, that's I think this kind of service mentality is something I think I've always had. This is why my first company was an ed tech, was an education, which is a very services driven business. It's not an industry that makes a lot of money, but it is pro social. It's a pro social industry, uh, and so um, yeah, I think just like whether you get remembered for it or not, or you get attributed for it or not, like leaving a positive impact, leaving a legacy of love and kindness and charity, would be, that has been a motivating factor, I think, growing up.
Yeah.
Uh, and also, I think in some ways that's what kept me going through the tough times, as well as an entrepreneur, because, you know, my first company wasn't necessarily like a massive success. And it wasn't, and even the beginning, early days of Omni, the first couple of years were bootstrapped. And so you go through some tough times. And even today, we go through, there's challenges all the time. And I think if it's just about money, if you're just being motivated by money or power or fame, like you're gonna give up because like it's like there are shorter paths to those things. Um, but if you're motivated by like a genuine desire to make the world a better place, like and truly live a life of service, then it doesn't really matter if you're making a lot of money or not, because um, number one, uh, number one, hopefully you're working on something that's interesting to you, like intellectually, like and Gen AI is something that I've just been deeply passionate about, like living my entire career. And two is that like, you know, if you don't, and if two is if you're doing this to help other people to begin with, then as long as you're helping other people, then that's what matters. It doesn't matter uh, how much money you raise or what the valuation of your company is or like any of these things. What really matters ultimately is, are you helping people uh, through your company? And so um, I think it's also important, thinking like from that set of first principles.
Mhm.
I think is very grounding. Now, obviously, you want to help as much people as you can at as big of a scale as you can, and so you need to be ambitious, uh, and I am ambitious in terms of achieving that scale as quickly as possible. Um, but the motivation is not uh, the motivation is just that is that more of a scale in terms of positive impact one's leaving.
Yeah. Well, I think that your father and your grandfather definitely were kind of moments in time that influenced you, as well as that verse that you read just a moment
Yeah,
ago. Yeah, I think that those are definitely pillars. I'm curious to know, as the next question is, what values are you led by today
yeah. I mean, I think
and want to be known for?
yeah. I mean, right. So um, yeah, sorry. So maybe I actually answered that question just now, and then going back to the influences, like yeah, the values I want to be known by is helping other people, having tried my best to do that and make the world a better place through my endeavors. Um, having left the particular principles being love and kindness and charity, um, grace, and then uh, and I think in terms of uh, the influence in terms of the influences, yeah, I mean, I think my mom for sure is the biggest influence for me. I mean, she she like raised, she's an immigrant, grew up, essentially raised three boys. My dad was really he's a busy, he's an artist. He's very busy. He's traveling all over the world, doing art shows, selling paintings, and so um, my mother essentially raised three boys by herself in New York, and um, so it's me, my two younger brothers. My mother, she doesn't have a network in the United States. She doesn't have grandma that can help babysit the kids, or if something happens, it's not like she has a large network of people she can rely on. She really just, raised three boys by herself in Westchester. And we got help along the way. There was a great lady called, Mrs. Barbara Fechter, who was like a retired elementary school teacher that was kind of like a surrogate grandmother of ours in some ways, and she would step in and babysit us or help us or take me to fencing competitions because I was a big fencer in high school. Fly with me to Texas and Iowa to fence in these competitions. But yeah, I mean, I think just seeing the sacrifices that my mother made to raise three boys. I mean, it's the American story. It's the American dream. And then to send her kids to Harvard and Princeton and UC Berkeley, which is where we three went, is truly inspirational. I think for her, the thing that she always said, and she continues to say, is living a life of kindness and service and being a nice person, being a good person, is the most important thing. And so that those values have been instilled in me, and so at a young age, at a very young age, which is again why my first company, I think college students start one of three companies. They start a dating app, or a food delivery app, or a tutoring app, because that's kind of the extent of the college experience. And I started a tutoring app because I think I really was pulled by this desire for service, servicing others. I was also student council president,
Mm.
middle school and high school. So every year um, I was class president from sixth grade to 12th grade, class president, and then student council president. So, and the approach I had towards leadership then was it's all about servant leadership, service.
Service
The
to others. Yeah, yeah.
like the highest person, like the highest role or the highest title role is actually the lowest position role because you're there to service everyone. You know, as president or class president or student council president of my school or my class, I was there in service of all the students in my class, and I was there to serve them and help them achieve their goals and help them, have a good school experience. And I view the same way when as an entrepreneur when I'm running a company. I'm there obviously to serve my customers. That's the primary objective. And I'm also here to serve the team, serve my company, serve the people of the company, to help them be their best selves. I'll help them achieve their dreams and their career goals, their career aspirations, and to empower them to be their best selves. And so I do view the world, and even as the mission of our company is to democratize growth and help entrepreneurs. I really do view my path through life to be a path of service. And I continue to be driven by the desire for service.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very, very cool. I was going to make a bunch of jokes about Bumble, but I don't know if they started that out of college.
The initial users so you think companies like Facebook start off as essentially a dating service.
Oh, I
Snap,
didn't know that.
one of the first questions in the profile was your relationship status.
Oh,
Uh,
wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
I mean, same thing with Snapchat I mean, essentially, it was a sexting app. Uh, I mean, Tinder. I think the first users of Tinder were in colleges. Um, uh,
I got
and
all that creativity on the college campuses.
yeah, I mean, Whitney Wolf was essentially like was one of the founders of Tinder, was essentially like the local college brand and like helping with the college growth expansion plans. And so, yeah, I think there's an element where colleges are very uh, fertile ground for these like viral growth and essentially dating products.
Testing on the college market. Yeah. So you've probably written a business plan or two, but I'm curious if you were to write a legacy manifesto, what guiding principles, goals, philosophies, what would be in your legacy manifesto? And I know this is an outside of the box question because again, you've probably written so many vision statements and business plans related to new companies, but this is, a legacy conversation today.
Yeah, I mean, I think the legacy manifesto is, and again, it's that of service and for others and helping others and living a life of service. And can we, like, did I live a life of service? And I used to tell the co-founder of my first company that we're going through tough times. Is if I were to die and if I were to go to heaven or hell or wherever I would go meet God. As long as God said that I you know did my best and I tried my best to benefit and service humanity, that was that was good. That was good enough. Like I tried my best. And so I think, yeah, like I think that is what I would want to be remembered by, is to live a life of service.
Yeah. I think also, did you live into your purpose? And I think you are living into your purpose.
Yeah, I mean, also, hopefully, I was I self-actualized in delivering that mission. Like, was I able to be my best self? And I think that, but the goal there is that is not an end, but is a means for the goal of ideally leaving as much of a positive impact on others as possible.
Yeah. Do you get any time as a founder to carve out time to think about your legacy or the bigger picture? Because a lot of times entrepreneurs, they'll build this amazing company, and whether they sell it for 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, whatever that number is, sometimes they're so busy in the short term that they don't necessarily like kick the soccer ball out like 50 years or 100 years. And so then when they sell, it's almost like they're standing in the middle of like Kansas and they're looking all around and they're going, oh, I don't know this landscape.
Yeah, I mean, honest, to be honest, I don't really think a whole lot of legacy. I think there's an element where there's an element of pride that's involved in thinking a lot about legacy,
Okay.
not necessarily, or like, I mean, there's like, it's like, who am I to say that I deserve to have a legacy, or like, or like, um, that so honestly, for me, like a lot of it is the day-to-day grind of just running a company.
Well, I
Like,
think it's thinking outside of the box, and a lot of times public and private schools, well, it's like you got to be a good employee. Like even they don't even teach about like how to be a good entrepreneur, like separate from like balancing a checkbook or knowing how. Because in real life, your report card is like your balance sheet or your income and profit loss statement or the P&L.
It's a really interesting question. I mean, there's this great lecture by Clay Christensen, um, and about like how to live your life or how to measure your life, and he goes like the most important. This is the thing, and I think this applies to company building to some extent as well, which is the most important things in life are not measurable. You know,
Mm.
but like does your kid love you? Do you have like the uh these things aren't, you can't measure that. There is no metric that's like one every year I'm like 1% improving or 20% growth in whatever, my kid loving me or something, or having a happy family, right? Like and so there is, I think, but those are the most important things. And so there's a really interesting lecture by Clay Christensen, who's a brilliant business thinker. He wrote the famous book called Innovators Dilemma, about entrepreneurship. But he's like, he had this really interesting observation, which was like his Harvard Business School class reunions, 5 years, 10 years, like the best students who were very good. They were optimizers. They could optimize, they could crank out something 20%. If you they could understand, they can solve problems, understand systems, and optimize and crank out systems for something to be 20%, 40%, 50%, 100% better every year. And therefore they had great careers, and they had great careers, and but they had terrible personal lives because they were drawn by the things that they could control, which was optimizing these things that they could measure, and then not, but like it was came at the sacrifice of the things that ultimately, they care, matter to them, and definitely to their sense of well-being. And so, uh, and to their legacy ultimately, like it's my legacy that I grew, X mega corp revenue, 50%, brought like,
Well, I think it's interesting. There's a certain amount of training that goes into to business schools regarding the curriculum around metrics and KPIs. The KPI stands for key performance indicators. And statistically, a lot of times people think legacy has to do with family, and it does in some ways. Like you've talked about your parents and your grandparents and so forth, and yet statistically, half of Americans are single. And so I can think of a billionaire, and hopefully he's not listening right now because I don't mean to put him on the spot. I think his name is Jeff Hoffman, and he's actually talked about legacy and on the stage of the Family Office Club, which is an organization out of Florida. And he's single. He was raised in Arizona, and he has reached that success level of being a billionaire and having that choice of leaving that world of survival and choosing then what he can do. And I think that is a very important conversation to have when half of the nation is single. I mean, that's just the United States, and I'm being ethnocentric at the moment because there are listeners all around the world to this podcast. But I just wondered if you could carve out the time, would you pass on like a personal archive or an equity structure, or would you mentor? I mean, I know you're 32, and but what's so interesting, I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, is I
Well,
think
yeah, I mean, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but like, I really admire these foundations. I really
okay,
admire the Ford Foundation, the Gates Foundation, what Chuck Fenney did with General Atlantic. Um, 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 and like if one could create a foundation like that does good, positive impact in the world continuously, that is, you know, I think very admirable. I think I also admire great entrepreneurs who build great revolutionary products. I admire Edison and the numerous innovations he brought to the world to make the world a better place. I admire Steve Jobs. Um, so I think there's numerous paths here in terms of impact. When it comes to I think there's an element where social media has kind of made us pretty antisocial actually in some ways. Like, we really struggle to connect with people in real life because we're so glued to our phones.
what
Uh,
do you admire about Steve Jobs? Because I actually have an associate that knew him personally.
I mean, that fact that he like ushered two insane revolutions. He ushered in the revolution of the personal computer. He like
Hmm.
really invented the personal computer and brought it to market um, with the Apple II. And then he invented mobile phones and the iPhone. I mean, you're lucky to do one of those things. You're lucky if you bring in one major technological innovation. To do that twice in the span of a career over, however many decades, that is truly, yeah, like there aren't many people. I can't, it's really in the realm of people like Edison or something, who, invents the light bulb and the phonograph and, like, like, things like, like this, like it, these are products that made the world much better. I think like it was an empowering product, democratized knowledge work, and it empowered people who previously didn't have access to the capabilities that these tools provide. And I think that's, yeah, I mean, that's really admirable.
Yeah. So about two-thirds of today's affluent are self-made, and I think it's inching up closer to 90%. So it's interesting those that are entrepreneurs and have the drive and the focus and the intelligence to create companies, build them, scale them, and then perhaps one day either pass them on or sell them. And they have kind of like Steve Jobs, an opportunity to to design a legacy where it's not like they're just trapped in a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure that, I mean, even the whole idea of like creating a legacy for your kids, I'm not even sure about that necessarily. I don't necessarily know if it's good for the kids necessarily to get that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. Yeah, I mean, I think making as much positive impact and then creating some kind of structure that keeps on going, benefit humanity as a whole, I think, is the ideal situation. And through that, you've also created some amazing products that made the world a better place.
Awesome.
Or really more like the priority should be building the product that makes the world a better place, and then any riches or any wealth you make from that should also be given away, given back.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one unconventional thing that you would like to do for your legacy that might surprise people?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I'm a conventional thing. I haven't. thought deeply enough. I mean, to be able to share something. I think at this point, probably do it secretly, whatever it is. But
Okay.
yeah, I do think that like yeah, like I don't um
Well, it's a seed that is getting planted today.
yeah, I mean I think the goal is not is like I prefer to be like unknown and
Do
like
good.
do good than yeah, and then just know that I've done good. I think that's the preferable outcome. I mean, even yeah, like the like the attention I need to garner for my company to sell my product and to raise awareness for the products we're building, is not. I'm doing this to benefit the company, service of the company, and so
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't necessarily want to be like famous. Like being famous is not necessarily a goal or something I have any interest necessarily in being, other than that it is like a necessary evil to do something, achieve some of these other things. I think people latch onto stories, people follow stories. I think personal stories are people find more inspirational. It's much better to embody movement as a person. Um, and so I think those are necessary things. But yeah, I don't know if I want to be like, known for a legacy per se.
Got it. Got it. Well, if you do well with your company one day, perhaps you'll partner with your two brothers and create a foundation.
Well, it's really interesting. There's already actually a foundation with my two brothers because my dad's an artist, and so we've already created a foundation where all his artwork goes to this foundation. So, which I'm a member, like a member of the board of this foundation
An officer.
yeah, exactly, with for my dad's artwork. So, because yeah, so like art, actually, interesting enough, that such a vehicle already exists.
Okay, all right. If you were to set aside a weekend or two a month for the next year to design a hardcover coffee table book, whether it's for the legacy of your family of origin or for your own life, what images or stories or best practices, best life lessons might fill its pages?
I think hopefully the stories of the people we positively impacted through our products, technologies, and our company, and so it's the
Okay.
stories of our employees, the stories of our customers. Yeah,
Very cool. Well, what I think is awesome about your company's website, because I did have an opportunity to look at it, is it's one of the things I wrote in this list of questions over to you is that we're living in a time when tools can outlive their creators. I think that the tools that your website offers makes it easier as in terms of the marketing asset piece.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because some people might not have that initial seed capital to hire a whole team of creative individuals, and then they lose out.
Our mission is democratize growth. That's been the mission since day one,
Yeah.
and it's our mission today. We want to empower more entrepreneurs to grow their businesses, to be able to grow their businesses.
Okay. What would be one call of action for any of the listeners? And then what is the website to your company?
Um, the website to our company is www.omnikey.com. You can also follow me on socials at Hikari Senju on LinkedIn, on Twitter. You can also follow OmniKey on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X. Um, yeah, gosh, I think a call to action is yeah. I mean, I think I think it's the go back to this quote from the Corinthians. How are you living a life of love and charity, and how can we imbue more love and charity into our life? Um,
Beautiful. Beautiful. I was actually going to ask you in one sentence, but you already just put it out there. How are you living a life of love and charity?
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's concise.
thank you, thank you.
Um, Thank you for being a guest. I wanted to just circle back for a moment before I read my closing paragraph.
Absolutely.
Okay. We started out today's episode with the question of what if the impact of your principles years from now could be the design of your legacy? And I think we have fulfilled that business promise in terms of looking at principles, whether it's helping others, being your best, making the world a better place, and even the principle of faith. You spoke about your Catholic faith and the verse that you had read, um, and also just what you had said about the principle of generosity being that your company's mission is democratizing growth, and
Yep.
so if it allows for a more even playing field and
Well,
go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in empowering people, and that, like, the best ideas are not come from some top down, like, insular elite group of people, but from, the best ideas come from everyone, from everywhere, and the best products. And so if we can empower more people to live a life of love and kindness, but also to bring their ideas into market, it is a more wealthier world. It is a richer world. It is a more vibrant world with richer products, richer experiences, and everyone benefits from that. And I think human progress has come from just empowering more and more people to be their best selves. And um, and and that's also the arc of technology too. I think the arc of technology, I think, has generally been to give more people more power. So yeah, I think just that is, that is like a strong belief that I have, which is, how can we empower more people to achieve their dreams? And because I've also been there. I've been the entrepreneur that's sleeping on floors and, not having food to eat, and um, really, like, living like day by day, really,
Living humbly.
absolutely living yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, gosh, my first company, I was literally living on the floor of my my co-founder was a PhD student, so I was literally living on his floor of his dorm room because I had graduated, but I couldn't afford an apartment, so I was living on his floor, and that was like a year. So, like, it's definitely, we buy these, like, bags of beans, right, and you kind of split them out, and so
Yeah, the sacrifices that you made. That could be a story one day in your hardcover coffee table book one day.
I think every entrepreneur makes sacrifices. I think my story is that unique in the context of other entrepreneurs as well. So, I had people. So I want to empower other entrepreneurs who are going through that struggle as well, and and we'll continue to go through this struggle. Entrepreneurship is a constant daily struggle uh, to make it easier to grow their businesses, and so that's the operating modus operandi of a company.
Yeah. Well, I think what you've shared today is brilliant, and a lot of times, I think a person's legacy is their work, but it is also their full identity. So I appreciate that you've spoken to a lot of different areas, as well as the struggle that comes with building a business.
Thank you, Angelina.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much. And in closing, I'm Angelina Carlton, the hostess of the Design Your Legacy podcast, as well as the founder of Legacy Planning, a boutique advisory firm based out of Beverly Hills, California, USA, but international in those I coach and consult. I hope to dive deep into subjects that can help a person define, develop, and execute their legacy, and continue to scour the landscape for those who can be great resources to every dimension of your legacy. For many listeners, there can never be enough education and preparation in the moat around your castle. Whether you find yourself with new wealth or generational wealth, may the content on this channel be an anchor in any storms ahead. We do our best to provide original content for your intellectual and emotional curiosity. If you're tuning in today on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, etc., please remember to rate and review, share with your family and friends. And if you feel so inclined, send an email or a message to either Hikari or myself and share your thoughts about today's conversation. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Hikari, for speaking into your legacy.